Welcome into another episode of Chicago Sports Overtime. Alongside the host of Courtside, Karli Bell, I am Tina Nguyen. And Karli, boy, do we have a lot to talk about with the Chicago Sky. Tough loss on Saturday to the Indiana Fever inside the UC. First WNBA game inside the UC, but Courtney Vandersloot, she's out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. Can you put into perspective for us how big of a loss this is for this team?
I mean, even in the post-game press conference, it felt like a death. It felt like there was a funeral. Like, you could just feel the somberness, the heartache. You could feel all of the sadness. And you kind of saw it, frankly, shortly after Vandersloot went out, that the team lost their complete identity. No player scored in double digits. The highest scorer was Camila Cardoso and Rebecca Allen with 8 points apiece. There wasn't any assisting. It was I believe it was almost a season high in turnovers with 22 on the game, giving up 25 points off those turnovers. Like, it was just one of those things where there was such an audible gasp in the United Center when it happened, and then you just saw the Sky crumble shortly after that.
Courtney Vandersloot is the Sky's all-time leader in scoring and assists. Tyler Marsh said she is our engine, our captain, our leader. What was it like inside the UC, though, the moment she went down? Because she went down, what, 5 minutes into the game, driving to the basket?
Yeah.
It was a non-contact injury.
Yeah, non-contact, and that's what's really hard, too, is it wasn't like, you don't ever want to see anyone get injured, but a hard foul is something that you can kind of sit there and be like, all right, I can take it, but when it's a non-contact injury, it's kind of like, not to compare to football, but when Teddy Bridgewater went down, and you just kind of, it was something that just happened, and you were like, oh no, what do you do? But the whole United Center just went quiet. It was, and you just saw, when they did the replay, you heard the gasp again. It, like, all the life and energy just got sucked out of the United Center when she went down. And then shortly after she went down, her wife, Ellie Quigley, was brought back there along with ownership within minutes of her being sent into the locker room. And then she was, and then finally announced that she was out for the season on Sunday.
Courtney Vandersloot, someone who was drafted third overall in the 2011 draft by the Chicago Sky.
Yeah.
She's so well respected in this city as an athlete, but also in the WNBA. 36 years old. Will this be the most difficult task that she'll face, rehabbing and coming back?
Well, the thing is you don't know if she comes back because she's been in the league for so long. This was her 15th season. And I said it, on draft night on 670 The Score, which is, you have somebody who's 36 years old, 15-year veteran. You don't know how many minutes you can play out of her because those knees only hold up for so long. It's not the best foreshadowing for me to put out there, but it's true. I don't want to say that it's a career-ending injury, but of anybody that I could see that would rehab and want to come back and not have her career end the way that did, Courtney Vandersloot is that player.
Looking at the Sky after Courtney went down, I mean, it looked like this offense definitely struggled, but they just lacked direction overall throughout the game.
Yeah, it was just non-existent. There was no identity. It was gone. And what Tyler March said after the game is that what Courtney Vandersloot does is not only is she a facilitator, but she's also the organizer. And what she does both offensively and defensively is something that brings cohesion to a team that's still trying to figure each other out. And as we saw when she was out of the game, there was no organization, there was no identity, there was nothing there. So what do you do moving on? That's the big question. And frankly, I don't know. You can go a lot. Here's the beauty of the Sky, having 12 players on the roster is that you max out the roster. But the downside of it is when an injury like this happens, you are not eligible to pick up a hardship contract. So the only way that you can really go and get a player is if you facilitate a trade or you waive some people. And is that the smartest thing that you want to do from a business perspective? I don't know. If they were to trade somebody, the two people that are the highest players that bring trade value is Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese. And do you want to give up those ticket sales? Do you want to give up the development that you've given of them already? Or do you just kind of throw everything on Hailey Van Lith, which, I don't know if you do that either. So it's one of those things that you sit there, and Tyler Marsh and Jeff Pagliacca and the coaching staff at the Sky are absolutely trying to iron that out, before their game on Tuesday.
Personally, who do you think gets the full-time point guard responsibility now? Because before coming into this game, one tough loss to the Fever, tough losing Courtney Vandersloot as well, but their 2 wins against the Dallas Wings, it felt like the offense was kind of clicking a little bit more. Ariel Atkins was playing well as well.
Yeah, it's one thing when I spoke to Shimmy Miller on the most recent episode of Courtside with Karli Bell, she said it's going to be point guard by committee, which I thought was a really interesting sentiment where you sit there and you're like, you could have Ariel Atkins come in, you could have Rachel Banham run the point, you could have Kia Nurse, which I wouldn't particularly like to see run the point, but she has more of a skill set than Rebecca Allen or Michaela Onyenwere. Or you could throw it all on Hailey Van Lith, but as we saw in the game against the Indiana Fever, she really struggled under that pressure. And to put everything on her, only 7 games into a season, that's a lot that you're asking of a rookie. In my personal opinion, I think I'm going to agree with what Shimmy said, which is it's a point guard by committee. It's all going to be matchup based. I think against New York on Tuesday, the biggest thing that you do is you have most likely Rachel Bannum run the point with Ariel Atkins at the 2, and then you have Hailey come off the bench. And the other thing is you don't know whether or not Mariah Jefferson is still going to be available. So there's a lot of what ifs. There's so many scenarios that unfortunately this guy only have less than 24 hours to figure out.
How do you expect this team, though, to move forward? And what have you learned about Tyler Marsh? I mean, this is certainly adversity, your first year as a head coach for this team.
Yeah, talk about having to learn through fire. Like, it's just one of those things that you're just like, oh, okay, all right, we're going to just see what happens here. You're already a new head coach trying to teach a brand new system to a team that's never played together before. So it's one of those things that you're trying to just see progress as it goes. This is going to be the biggest test of Tyler Marsh's head coaching ability is right now. And this is where they make the money, is how you respond to adversity like this. So I don't know what is going to happen. Honestly, prior to this injury, I had this guy projected to be a playoff team. Right now, do I still think that's possible? Yes. Do I think it's likely? I don't know, because it all depends on what happens with that point guard position. If they waive players or you make a trade, then you have so many other things to think about. So I don't like saying don't look at the New York game as the way to evaluate the Sky, because that's an undefeated defending champion team. Like, they're just playing some of the best basketball in the league. But you look at when they play Atlanta at the end of the week and Connecticut over the weekend, those 2 games will be the actual test of what the Sky can do against other opponents in the league.
One thing's for sure, some unknowns here, but they got to figure it out quick, because like you said, they do play undefeated New York Liberty. They're 8-0 right now, tomorrow on the road. Karli Bell, thanks so much for hanging out with us here.
Thank you, Tina.